Here's how to set up Dragonframe to work with your miniDF. I'll start Dragonframe. I'm going to go to Create New Scene. Gives you a chance to name it. Decide where to save it. Now, as Dragonframe starts up, I get this indication, DF-MoCo connection failed, USB port COM3. And that's because my miniDF is right here. And what I'm going to do is plug it into the USB port and set everything up from the beginning. I'll plug my drivers into the motor ports. I have Dolly color-coded red. It goes into port 1. Focus is green. I'll put that into port 3. And zoom is yellow, which I'll put into port 4. And now I'm through with that. I can get that out of the way. I'm just going to say OK to this. I'm going to go to the arc motion control window. I'm going to go to Scene. And then to Connections. I want the miniDF to go onto arc MoCo 1. So I'll go there and click Connect. It lets me choose the COM port, serial port COM3, which it has selected based on the fact that there is something plugged into that USB port. And since that's the only USB device, that's my only choice. That makes it very simple. I just clicked OK. And you can see two things have happened. This checkbox has been checked that says connection required for shooting. And now connect is no longer highlighted and disconnect is. And I'm not going to click disconnect because I want my miniDF to be connected. So that's it. My miniDF is now connected to Dragonframe, and I can go about adding my axes into the motion control window. I'm going to go over here. The second icon is Add Axis. I'm going to click that. It's going to let me add my first axis, and first thing I can do is name it. I'll name it Dolly. It's connected to arc MoCo 1, channel 1, which is fine. There's lots of other settings in here to do with the setting up the driver. Right now, I'm going to change maximum jog speed from 1000, which is the default. I'm going to add a 0 to make it 10,000. And I'll select OK. So now I have a line here labeled Dolly. I have my jog controls, which should let me move the motor. And this little house button lets me send the motor to the home position, which is where it was when we started out. I'm going to add 2 more axes. This next axis I will call focus. We'll leave ArcMoco 1, which is our miniDF, but I'll change the channel. In this case, I'll make it channel 3. I think I'll change the jog speed from 1000 to 2000. I don't want to go too fast because I want fairly precise control here. And I'll click OK. And here's our focus axis. And now I should be able to jog this motor. And I can send it back home. I'll add 1 more axis. This one I'll call zoom. ArcMoco 1, I'll make this channel 4, the 4th plug on our miniDF. I could leave this as it is, but just for the heck of it, I'll change maximum jog speed for now to 2000 for that axis. And I should be able to jog the motor. And I can send the motor back where it started from. So now I've added 3 axes. I've color coded my drivers and the motors, and red is dolly, green is focus, but I've got yellow for zoom, so I'm going to click this color box, select yellow, okay, and now my color coding box here matches the color coding on my drivers and my motors. But right now I think I'll set a keyframe, which is this diamond shaped thing here. This sets a keyframe at this start position. Now I'll move some motors around. Going to dolly forward. I'm going to move my focus closer. I'm going to zoom my lens. And I can move my timeline cursor to wherever in the timeline I would want this position to occur. And just to keep things brief, I'll set that at frame 15. For almost anything reasonable, we'd want it longer. But I'm going to use the diamond-shaped icon to set another keyframe here. And you can see it has set up curves to move all my motors from the start position to this keyframe. And I can jog between keyframes in the timeline with these little arrows over here. This moves the motors back to the start. And the little arrow going the other way moves it forward to this keyframe. Now, I could go on and set more keyframes, or I could set keyframes in between here to correct my movement. But I'm going to do something a little bit different. This time I'm going to watch the different motors. Dragonframe is just moving the motors at ramping up to whatever the maximum jog speed is until they get to their destinations. And right now the different motors are arriving at different times. And I'm going to watch what they do this time. So Dolly finished last. Focus, I think, finished next. And Zoom. So what I'm going to do is adjust the speeds of the different motors. I'm going to slow down Focus and Zoom to try and get them to finish the move at about the same time as Dolly. So I'm going to click on Focus. This brings up the panel where I set things up originally. And now I'm going to change maximum jog speed, say, to 300. Well, and let's see how that works out. Oh. That slowed it down a little bit too much. I'll try 800. And I'll send these back where they came from. That looks pretty good. So now I'll try resetting the jog speed on Zoom. Also making that 800. And I'll try the move again. That's ending a little too soon. So try 600. Still just a little soon. $500. That's just a little late. Try 550. There. Now I can jog between these two positions and have the motors finish up at the same time. This is pretty much how I would coordinate real-time movements, either to have the dolly move past something and the pan tilt head track it, or to do a dolly zoom where I would dolly forward while zooming from telescopic to wide angle and shifting focus. So that's one way to trick Dragonframe into doing a real-time A to B movement. But Dragonframe is mainly for stop motion animation and for time-lapse. This little icon here in the lower right that looks like a movie camera will let me preview the move. If I click this, it's going to give me the option of running the entire range of frames, which in this case is only 15 frames, or to select a shorter amount of frames to preview movement for. I'll select OK. And now it's running through each of the shooting positions for the 15 frames in the sequence I've programmed. There's longer movements in the middle, and the movements will become shorter as it ramps down to a smooth stop at frame 15. Now I'm going to set up a time-lapse sequence based on the motion control program I just created. I'm going to go to Capture, Time-lapse. This opens the time-lapse window. The first line allows me to set my interval. I can have days, hours, minutes, seconds. The default is 10 seconds. I can also set a start and an end time. This is optional. Also limit to a certain number of frames. At the moment, I'm just going to take the default of a 10-second delay and let it run my 15 frames. So to do that, all I have to do is hit OK. It's telling me it wants to move the motors to the start position, which it has now done. And the first frame will be captured now. It's captured a shot now. The next shot will be in 3, 2, 1. It started with small moves, and as it goes, the moves are getting larger as we're moving to the part of the motion profile that involves high-speed movement. Here near the middle will be the longest moves, corresponding to the fastest velocity of the dolly moving down the track. It'll do a few more large moves before starting to ramp down the speed. Now we're getting to the curve part again, and the moves will get a little bit smaller each frame as the dolly's speed is ramping down to a smooth stop at the end of the motion on frame 15. Very small move there, and an even smaller one for the next frame. And that's it. That's how you set up a time-lapse sequence with Dragonframe.